Good afternoon, traders. This is Chris Buss with Traders Profit Compass with your Market on Close report for Monday, October 5th. Okay, first a little bit of housekeeping. I really apologize for not getting you out a midday update. My charting platform was being really stupid and not cooperating, and by the time it got squared away, it was too late in the afternoon to do that, so I apologize about that. Also, subscribers, I sent you a quick survey that I'd like you to fill out and give me some feedback on the things we've been doing on the site, ways to improve, all that kind of stuff. I'd really appreciate it if you spent 10 or 15 minutes going through that for me and giving me some feedback for things to work on in the future. I'd appreciate that. Okay, we had a big green day today. Let's dive into the charts and see what we can figure out. Starting with the SPY 2-hour, we had closed low on Friday, right here around 334, gapped up this morning to 336, and finished on a high note up towards 340. We're still in the big range that we've been talking about and focusing on. The high end of the range is here at 341.50. The moment of truth will come when and if price reaches that level, if it can break out or if it gets turned away like it has before. So all eyes are on 341.50 on SPY. RSI continues to operate in its bullish regime on this time frame, and I think this is significant right here. We had the turn down on Thursday and Friday of last week in momentum, and they reversed it, and now we've got we had a bear cross followed by a bull cross. It doesn't happen that often, but it certainly has happened now, and so the bulls have reasserted themselves in terms of momentum, and the ball is in their court right now as far as powering through this level and then breaking out. You can see a little bit finer detail here on the 30-minute chart. The gap up this morning has left a sizable gap in the chart that will get filled at some point in the future. We don't know when. And there's also this $3 gap down, way down here below, that also remains unfilled. And if we were to go out on a daily chart, there's lots and lots of gaps down below that were never filled, never closed on the ramp up out of the March lows. So that's nothing to worry about in particular. It's more or less a factoid that, at some point they'll fill. We don't know when, and, it's nothing to really trade on other than the fact that if this were to turn down, then these gaps become natural targets for price. So it's good to keep track of them in your own charts, even on individual names that you may be charting. Keep track of those gaps, because when and if price does turn around, they will act as magnets coming back for price to eventually fill. So anyways, now that we've crossed this 338 level, what was resistance is now support. So you can see that even earlier in today, once we broke out above, we did come back to test that 338 level, and it held, and then we bounced from there. So tomorrow, as we've been discussing, all eyes will be at this 341.50, and that will be overhead resistance and the last level before breaking out, if it can do that. So that's a key level. Very much the same kind of idea on the Qs. We finished down here at 274 on Friday. We gapped up, leaving this gap behind, and we powered right on up to this 280 level. Now you can see from Friday there was this gap down which left this open gap. So this was a false breakout. We popped above 280, then retraced. Now we're back up to that level, and what we'll be watching for tomorrow is, does this gap fill, and can price move above last week's high at 283. Now, I think it's important to note, because we are so close in both SPY and Qs. One thing that happened last week was that the Qs broke out above the trading range, which is normally bullish, but we never got the confirmation from SPY. It wasn't even close to breaking out. But that situation has changed now, that if the Qs were to proceed tomorrow and the days ahead and power up above 280, above 283, in conjunction with SPY breaking above 341.50, then that's going to be very bullish, because both of the main indexes will have broken out of this big range. And as we've been discussing, this is a $20 range from high to low, 260 to 280, and it's also a $20 range on SPY. So just from our technical analysis, if both of them were to break out, the measured move target would be add 20 onto 280, so that brings you to 300, attacking the prior highs. And same thing for SPY, add 20 onto roughly 340 and you got 360. So if those breakouts happen, then that would be a big green light to get long for a run against to the prior highs, with a stop right at this 280 or 341.50 on SPY, because you don't want to see that price come back into the range. So really critical spot. This is just more detail on the 30-minute chart. Here was the gap up, gap and go, ran into some trouble at 279, but then powered above 280 and testing this gap right here from last week. So that's that. We got RSI moving up. We have a bull cross on momentum moving above zero. So those things are all bullish, but we're at resistance, and you never know what's going to happen overnight. So we'll just have to watch that. Big day for IWM. We closed here Friday on a high note, gapped higher above this level of resistance, and moved higher throughout the day, coming up to resistance here at 157.50. A break above there takes you into the 159s and most likely to 160. And if this reflation trade, we'll get into bonds in a minute, but rates ticked up today, which is very helpful to banks. And IWM is loaded with financials, and the back to normal trade with all this small cap value that money's finding its way into are really helping IWM move higher and outperform the other indexes in the last couple of days. Here's the 30-minute chart. Here's the unfilled gap from this morning, and then moving up higher, following this channel line And I wouldn't be concerned. This was just a line that I drew in there. Probably not the most accurate in the whole wide world. But just watch your overhead levels at 157.50 off the 2-hour, and then we can go out to the daily chart, and you'll find that there's some resistance at 160 that was tested a couple times a while back, and price was rejected from there. So coming up on critical levels on all the indexes, but all of them, look bullish as of today. Facebook spent a lot of time today pinned beneath 264, which was a big level from a couple weeks ago. Inching above, there's a small gap to fill. If it can take out the prior high right here around 268, then it should have a pretty clear path up to this 273 level. So that's looking a lot better than it had last week on this breakdown. Apple got through this 115 level. Really, the next stop overhead is 118, and if it can get through 118, I think it's got a good chance to get to 123. That's a trade that I would definitely take to be long. I mean, if you got long today on the break above 115, that's great. You can just stay long. And if price were to take out 118, you can raise your stop or roll your strikes higher to book that gain and stay long, and look for 123 if it can break out above 118. You can see here on the momentum profile, you're getting that bottoming action at the 0 line with the bull cross just initiating. That's a bullish look, and RSI breaking back above 50, which is also supportive of higher prices. So that looks good. The test will be tomorrow or in the days ahead right here at 118, where you can see it's had trouble in the past. The last 3 times has gotten rejected there. Amazon doesn't look like it did a whole lot today, but there was actually like $100 of travel. Once it opened, it went from 3150, came up and tagged 3200, so that's $50. It came back and tagged 3150 again, and then closed at 3200. So that's $100 in travel right there on Amazon. Not saying it was the easiest trade in the whole wide world, but it was certainly there if you're comfortable trading that on really short time frames. But here at 3200, that's been a tough level the last couple of weeks. If it can pop 3200, then I think you got a free run at 3250. And given this volume over price profile here, you can see there's a relative void just above. I think if you can pop 3200, that would be a great place to get long, not only for a run to 3250, but very likely a run to 33.35. I would say on Amazon. So if you're comfortable trading that and you see a break above 3200 tomorrow, get long. Look for 3250. If you cross it, you can roll your stops and your strikes higher, and then look for 33.35, which was the last place price ran into trouble about a month ago, I guess, back up here. So That looks productive. Got a bull cross working on momentum and breaking back above 50 on the RSI. Microsoft spent some time here back testing this 208. It held and moved higher. Tomorrow, 211 is a key level. If it can break above, can go for this gap fill and likely a run to 213. And I think that's a really important spot for Microsoft. And if you weren't involved in all this trading down here, that's fine. If you see a break above 213, I think you can get long and look for the low 220s, because not a ton of overhead resistance in this area. I think that would be a great risk reward if Microsoft gets bullish, closes this gap, and pops 213. If you were long into the gap, stay long tomorrow. If it breaks 213, roll your your stops and your strikes higher. Stay long and look for 221 on the breakout above 213. Netflix actually had a very nice intraday opportunity. If you notice, price opened higher, but then came back to back test 505, and that had been a level that we had been watching the whole time. That would have been a perfect place to pull the trigger long with your stop just below the key level. Never gave you any worry about shaking you out. It just went higher from there and added 15, 17 bucks to that entry level. Notice this high volume over price bar here at 525. That between 525 and 530 is going to be a sticking point. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, a hesitation there, especially if the broad market is, soggy or not really strong. But if you get a break above 530, I think you can get a run to 545, 550. So if you had gotten long this morning, this would be an area where I'd be rolling up stops and strikes to book this win, take those monies to the bank. You can stay long into 525, 530, see how it handles it. If it looks like it's going to be a problem, you can, just close out depending on your time frame. And then when it breaks above, reinitiate your long and look for mid 540s up to 550, even possibly 560, depending on how strong things get. So you've got a bull cross starting to form here, and you've got RSI above 50, so that looks really good. Google really didn't do much. It was up, almost 2%. It doesn't look like much, but some decent money there. But your main levels are coming up overhead at 1490 and 1505. If you can clear 1505, I think you can look towards 1538, 1540 there, and that will be your next potential sticking point of overhead resistance. You can see here on this large volume over price bar, there was a lot of congestion here and a lot of rejections there as well. So that would be probably a place to anticipate either some consolidation or a rejection from there. Tesla was kind of soggy all day. It gapped higher, went up to 430 and tested that for a couple of hours and was repelled. Still ended up with a positive day, but you can tell 1430 is the key spot. Tomorrow, if price can pop that 1430, I don't have it drawn in here, but you can see the gap. There's a gap here from, say, I don't know, 1448 down to probably a $10 gap here. You draw that in. If it can pop 430 and then get into that gap, I think you could make 450 on that breakout above 430 with a little luck and a little push from the market. Gold, what's higher, still not above that 180. I had been anticipating and laid out this beautiful bull thesis on the dollar, and it went the other way today. In a sizable way, I would have thought gold would have popped a lot higher, but it didn't. It's still below resistance, and until it can pop 180, that'll remain resistance, and I am still clinging to stronger dollar, although it's not looking very good right now. I don't have any trades on gold, silver, or the dollar. That's just my thesis. I want to see kind of what happens right here, right now. And, you know, if the dollar just fades away, gold is going to pop this 180. And if it does, I'll be wrong, but then I'll be wrong and get long. How's that? Because recapturing a key level from below is bullish. If it can pop this downtrend line and lateral resistance and take out the 20 EMA and the 50 EMA, all that'll be support on the way back up. And I think that would be a nice trade to take if the dollar continues to fall apart and price pops that resistance level. Same kind of thought process on silver. 23, if it can break above, you see the declining 20, you've got the 50 in here, and lateral resistance at 23. If the dollar continues to go down, I expect this to pop, and if it pops above, I want to get long with a stop just below 23 and see if this thing reaccelerates. I think that's going to be a good risk-reward trade if it can pop. If the dollar falls apart, goes lower, then that bodes well for long precious metals. We put on a long trade on NEO today. It's above this $4 consolidation range. Not the strongest of price patterns here, I'd have to admit, but as long as this level holds, I think it favors higher prices, and the measured move puts this at 25. We'll see if it gets there. We're out in November, 21 calls, so let's hope that price can get a move off of this support level and the rising EMAs and make a move towards 25. This is this SciPlay internet platform stock. We have been in this. We were probably counting our money when it got up here to 17, and then the floor fell out, and that was when some of that market turbulence was going on. Shook me out of the position. It has since come up and reclaimed. Had a big day today. And it's not shown here, but this is blue sky right here. This was a failed IPO from 2 years ago, where either 16 or 17 was the high print on its IPO day, and then it was down ever since. Well, now it's come back. So this is blue sky. I had thought about taking it today. I didn't do that. Still may get long against 17, but this looks strong. You know, breakout to all-time high, it's a buy. So I think you can get long this stock against 17 and see if it can push higher. That would especially be the case if, you know, the Qs broke out and SPY broke out and everything's like gonzo bullish. This is a pretty tight setup against 17, and I like that trade. Not really the order of flow that I wanted to talk about this, but it's the next one on the list. Watch bonds. There could be a massive trade afoot on this. We've been in this trading range a long time, coming down out of this rising channel. It dropped below and it basically flattened out. Well, yields popped today, and this was down 2%, I think, 1.95%. The last stop is 158.25, and this may even be a short right here against 160.25. So you got 75 cents of risk coming down for 158.25. But if this level breaks 158.25, then it's basically all she wrote. You're going to see a massive pop in banks, all kind of financials with a rising, rising yield means falling bond prices, and there's not a lot below 158 to stop it, and you may see, down in the 150s, that March low, or June low, excuse me, come up real fast if yields get on a tear. So even if you're not a big bond trader, I would set, an alarm here at 158.25. That might be a trade to take on TLT if rates continue higher. AMD, somebody in the trading room pointed this out. Nice little setup. Had a false breakout, has come down, got support on the 50, and is now back up at that level. If things stay bullish and you get a pop above this, 86.50 area, then you're, I would think, for sure going to see a run at this prior high at 92. And if, the whole market stays bullish, you're going to probably see AMD come up and at least tag 100. Bull cross working on momentum, breakout on RSI. So from those standpoints, it looks good. Looks like a nice bullish setup. This is semiconductor ETF as a whole. We have been watching this range. We had that pop out on Thursday, then a gap down on Friday, then a big day today. Tough to get an entry there. You'd have had to been really sharp on the draw first thing this morning and grab it. It still may be a long. I think it can find 185 just on a measured move basis. We'd have to, pick a spot in here or get a back test again of 175. That would be a good entry for a long on that. If we, could get a move back to 175 and have that hold, that would be a nice entry. But semis look strong. And last chart is KRE Banking Index. I think we had pointed out, if I'm not mistaken, this move to support. That would have been a great entry. But now we've come off of that and we're at downtrend resistance. And this is a big if. But let's say it comes up here to the 200 at 41 and is able to pop it. You've got this big, big, big volume over price void here. Remember, this used to trade, in the mid 50s, and we're down here at 38. So let's not give up on this trade, especially if yields go wild. These stocks, these banking stocks, will really benefit from that, and you'll see a lot of money flowing into the financial sector if yields continue to rise. And if it can take out the 200 and pop this 41, I think you got a nice long setup there to make a run into the mid 40s at least, and probably it's not beyond reason that it could even make 52 up here. It's not going to go there in a straight line, but if you get a good entry, if you get good trade location down at 41, it really doesn't matter, because as long as it's grinding higher, you'll be making money. And so I'm going to set an alarm there. I'm going to set an alarm in here at, say, 39, maybe as a starter position if it can break this downtrend line, and see if we can get a push to 41. I've been pretty negative on the banks, to be honest. I didn't really see yields going nuts, but if they do, I'm happy to change my mind. I think this is the real trade, though, on a break above 41 and the 200. I wouldn't be surprised if it came up here, spent a little bit of time consolidating, and then you take that breakout once it breaks above. I think that's an easier trade than messing around in here where there's been a lot of congestion. I think this is the real trade, a breakout above the 241. Okay, that's all I've got for this evening. Real strong day. Now it's all going to be about follow through, and if the Qs along with SPY can take out that big trading range that we've been trapped in for quite a number of weeks. That'll be a big bullish event technically. As it stands now, we're still in the trading range. I mean, things look like they're shaping up and more positive, but until price breaks out, nothing's a foregone conclusion, so we're just going to have to watch it tomorrow. I hope you like the content. If so, please hit the like button and the alarm bell if you're new to the channel. Go ahead and subscribe, and you'll get all my content each and every day when I publish. Also, check out the show notes where you'll find links to my the blog site, where you'll find a lot of helpful information, and also a place to register where you'll get all my content delivered to your email box each and every time I publish new information. So, hope you have a good rest of your evening, and we'll hit it first thing tomorrow as we always do. This has been Chris Buss with Traders Profit Compass. Talk to you next time.